It's the Unhappy Hour.
All right, everybody, welcome back. If you're listening live, that took just a matter of seconds. If you're listening after the fact on YouTube or thenewamericanmedia.com or Twitter or Facebook, hey, cool, thanks. I appreciate you checking out the show. This is called The Unhappy Hour. It's a place where Cleveland Indians, Cavs, Browns, and Buckeye fans get together and lament the fact that the Cleveland teams have never brought a title to my life in the past 35 years, and to so many people who were born and raised in that area just since 1964 have never even been alive to celebrate a single championship. The Buckeyes are the closest thing we have, but hey, that's 2.5 hours away. Come on. Deal with it. You can be fans of different teams. Although I don't really understand the people living in Toledo who root for Michigan. Hey, I lived in Bowling Green and I was close to Canada, but I never rooted for Canada in the Olympics. If you're from Columbus, how in the world are you a Steelers fan? If you don't have family ties there, why are you a Steeler fan? Why aren't you Bengals or the Browns? Anyway, deal with it. That's what we do on our program. It's a very Ohio-centric, Cleveland-centric sports radio show. But of course, a lot of times, our stories are your stories, whether it's LeBron James returning home, multiple MVP, multiple championship winner. The whole Cavs saga over the past decade has been national news, along with the Buckeyes, and of course when the Indians are hot and the Browns that are a hot mess. We'll get to that in a second with Johnny Manziel and Josh Gordon and what the hell are they supposed to do there. But we bring back Zak Baris. He is a lifelong Cleveland sports fan. He is a former NBA scout, a current NBA consultant, analyst, etc. Zach, welcome back, man. This Cavs situation has gone from bad to worse with Anderson Varejao getting injured, being out for the season, and now LeBron with just general fatigue or specifically the knee and the back. Talk about the injury problems for the Cavs a little bit.
It's tough. I mean, they're struggling right now. I was watching the game last night against Charlotte. They have their obvious struggles. But it is nice. You know, they did play well last night. They really did.
Without LeBron, of course. Kevin Love had
and
a chance.
The problem is this team doesn't have a center. It's something every time I'm on the show, and even before the season, I said this is going to be their one problem is they do not have a center and they do not have a backup. I mean, they do not have a backup point guard, really. Dellavedova is great, but they need someone who can move the offense better. Dellavedova is fantastic defensively, don't get me wrong. Fantastic. But they need something else back there. And that's the thing. They do need help in the backcourt, and they do need a center. So, that's what I was saying all year, and I've been saying this on the program for 4 years now. Varejao is a 4. He's not a 5. So you lost a power forward. Thompson's a 4, not a 5. Everyone this team has on this roster, and Kevin Love's a 4 too. They don't have a center on this roster other than Brendan Haywood, and he doesn't count.
And he never plays, yeah. He's not a
He started the other night against Milwaukee. I was at that point where I left the game early. I was so annoyed on New Year's Eve.
Because of Hayward? No, just because of the game in general. No, not
because of Hayward. You should have seen the lineup that was out there. I mean, they were down by 25. I didn't even pay attention to the game. It was tough. You know, when Alex Kirk and Brendan Haywood are getting valuable minutes, you know your team's in trouble. You know, here's the thing. I'm not going to panic until after the trade deadline if they don't make a move. They're going to make a move. Like I keep saying, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they're going to make the move, and they're going to do it. Whether they go and trade Dion Waiters, which I think is the most likely case, I think he's the most likely player on the roster to be traded.
Do you think Dion's value has increased?
A little bit. I don't think by much. I mean, here's the thing: he would help a team out like Philadelphia. He's not gonna help a good team become great. And I think teams know that. He's going to make a really bad team that can't score the basketball a better team. But do they want that? That's the question. No.
They want to be as bad as possible to get the highest pick possible.
Exactly.
Interesting. So, unintended consequences of the NBA lottery system. I get it.
You know, normally I would be able to tell you what Dion's trade value is, but it's so out in left field. I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't.
Hey, I
don't know where his value lies.
Yeah. I think it's a little higher than it was when he was refusing to come out for the national anthem.
I mean, it's still
that
still
doesn't
low.
help.
I mean, Dion, he's just an immature kid. He's
Always
never
going
to have the value. I mean, like I said, I've been saying this for 3 years now. The day they drafted him, the Cavaliers would regret it. I'm not changing my mind on this one. You know, like I said, yeah, I remember being on the show after he put up that 32-point game against the Clippers his rookie year, and I said, he's got some Dwayne Wade in him. There's no doubt about that. He just can't do it consistently. He'll never be Dwayne Wade, and we all know that. And I called that. I said that after the Clipper game. I go, let's see more of these games. Let's see games similar to this. And putting up 2 to 3 of them a year is okay. Yeah, it's great, but you're just showing what his potential is that he's never going to reach.
Does that basically come down to when you know that a player has the capability to do it, but they can't maintain that is your high of high and your low of low is drastically different. It's nowhere even near consistent or ballpark. Does that come down to a player's IQ? And I don't necessarily just mean intelligence. I mean like game intelligence. Is that the difference there?
No, yeah. There's a difference between regular IQ and basketball IQ.
Yeah.
I mean, look at a player like Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
I don't even need to get into that to go and discuss that, but Derrick Rose is one of the highest basketball IQs you're ever going to see. On the court. Off the court, not so much.
You go by interviews.
Any of the listeners can do their own research on Derrick Rose in high school and college if you want to find out.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be there.
Not necessarily a scholar.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we will put it that way. Nicely.
So basketball IQ doesn't necessarily translate. I mean, but. Dion Waiters, his basketball IQ just, like you said, there's nights it shows up, but he's a guy who always wants the basketball. He's never going to be able to play on a dominant, he's never going to be the most dominant player offensively on a good team.
Not on a good team, but you could be a great piece to a team that needs a great piece, except if you're not wired that way, you don't really, I don't know.
No. Look at all those guys that Sacramento always has, and, you see them and they're like, okay, they're putting up great numbers, and you're just like, they go to another team, you're like, oh, okay, I see why. Look at a guy like Evan Turner. Look what Evan Turner did last year for the Sixers. Having a great year, he gets traded to the Pacers. Does nothing. They were a worse team and they were awful last year. It just doesn't click.
Yeah, they actually got worse with him on the roster, kind of like the Browns got worse with Josh Gordon. And I'm reading reports about Josh Gordon having a really big attitude that was way different than prior to this suspension. He came out like a diva and, still trying to track down exactly what happened there. But, yeah, sometimes you add a player and the team gets worse. It actually happens. Personalities do make a difference. And what are we to make now of the biggest personality on the Cavs? A franchise that has Kyrie Irving as kind of the face of the future, one of the best up-and-coming players, hopefully for the next decade, moving forward with his new shoe line for Nike. I forget what number, but not a lot of people have had their own shoes with Nike, and Kyrie just got that.
No, not at all. And, I mean, here's another thing, too. We've discussed before the year what guys could possibly come available. Well, anyone on Atlanta is out of the picture now. Atlanta's they're a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference. Something that, if you look at most analysts, didn't happen in the playoffs. I'll never forget when I came on the show, I had them as the number 4 seed in the East.
Can they maintain that? You expect them to do that?
They can. They're a very good basketball team. I mean, they've been excellent right now. I mean, don't forget the Cavaliers have gotten blown away by them this year, and they also beat the Hawks by 40-something points this year, too. But the Hawks are a top 2 team in the East. Look at their record. Look at who they've beaten this year. They've been fantastic.
They're somebody we're going to be dealing with this whole season as a Cavs fan.
Yeah, honestly, come playoff time, though, I wouldn't be too worried. And I wouldn't be too worried about the Raptors. I mean, the Raptors destroyed the Cavs once. The Cavaliers went out and beat them the next 2 times. Once the Cavaliers get their together, and I left that blank, once they get it together, they are going to be just fine. But they do need to add a center, and there are other pieces they need to add. They will be able to add pieces at some point this season. There will be guys that are traded that do get bought out, and they will be free agents. The Cavaliers will be just fine at some point this season. Right now, let them work out the kinks. There are more issues than everybody thought there would be. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and panic because it's not playoff time. They're not the 8th seed losing in the first 4 games. As long as they get into the playoffs, that's all that matters.
Do you think that there are issues that we don't know about? That something's simmering underneath? We saw when Dwayne Wade had a chat with LeBron.
No. LeBron will be in Cleveland for the rest of his career. I'm telling you that right now. He's not going to go and leave and go back to Miami next year. Miami's finished, and they suck this year, too, without him. Nor do they have the cap space. It's not going to happen. He's not going back to Miami next year. Whatever people might say, and the fire being, people feeling the fire right now, It's not going to happen. That's all I can tell you. And you think LeBron's stupid enough to say that with a bunch of microphones around?
And that's right. And he had a funny line about that. Talk about basketball IQ. LeBron had a funny line. He said, "Come on, guys, seriously." And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "You think if I was going to say something like that, I would have went to Dwayne's house and had a conversation with him personally. You think I would say that on Christmas with all those cameras around?" He said, "I didn't go to college, but I'm not stupid." That was a pretty funny line talking about basketball IQ. But yeah, but everything, LeBron's body language, he has been frustrated. He hasn't really been playing balls out. We saw it the first game of the season. We've seen it. A couple weeks ago, he said that.
I think you're going to really watch him turn it on at the end of the year. Let him get back in shape. Let him get his body back in it. I think he's just physically exhausted.
He is, but he's never been that way before.
I think we saw it last year in the finals that he was just physically drained in the finals last year.
All right. Yeah, I could sit with the cramps and when the air conditioner went down against the Spurs. Yeah.
He was physically exhausted. His teams were getting beat by 30 points. The same thing would have happened this season, whether he was on Miami or Cleveland, whether people want to believe it or not. Go back and rewatch the NBA Finals this year. He was gassed, and it was just from playing too long of a season.
Yeah, he said in his career he's played over 41,000 minutes, and he said, you try starting this car on a winter morning. Just saying, like, man, I'm kind of spent. I'm kind of exhausted. I need to rest a little bit. Like, I'm just, and I can understand that. I can absolutely understand that. Hopefully, hopefully the 2 weeks stays to the 2 week timetable and he comes back real strong. I think he'll be in Los Angeles shortly after that. So, David Blatt. Is there anything to be worried about with David Blatt? Is in his job security?
No, unless somehow Gilbert suddenly comes out and fires him, which I don't think will happen. I really don't. I wouldn't be panicking on that one either. I really think the Cavaliers. It's just the talk is they're not doing what everybody thought they would be doing this season. Yeah, they haven't won. They're not going to win 60 games this year. People just need to face the facts they're not going to. Is a championship entirely out of the possibility? No, you'd be more looking like they're going to win next year, and they have that trade exception to use. And trust me, they're not stupid. If they feel they can win it this year, they'll go out and they'll trade Brendan Haywood and get the trade exception and everything. They'll go out and they'll move his piece. They'll go out and move everything they have to. Next year they have a large. He's due for. We can get a huge player for him next year, due to the way it works out. We've discussed it on the show in the past. And they can acquire a lot of salaries. They're going to wait because they know this is not the year right now. They just don't have it all. They don't have all the pieces centered around. Next year, you can go out and acquire all those pieces. So I would sit back. I'm not saying they're not going to win it because they always can. But most likely, will they this season? No. We need to be realistic. They're probably not going. Next year is the year that you'd be looking at it. And I hate the next year stuff, but it's just something realistically that's probably what it'll be like.
And you never know. You look at Oklahoma City and there's an injury. Anything could happen. Something could happen with Derrick Rose or with the Hawks, and all of a sudden then you do come out and then maybe there's something that goes on in the West where an unexpected team comes out. Talking about unexpected, I guess you don't find it surprising that Andrew Wiggins, what was his game, his stats? I saw it flash across the other day. Wiggins put up like 27, 6 and 6 or something like that.
He's been putting up good numbers now. There's no denying that he's a good player. But the thing was that the Cavaliers had to do it to compete. And that's another reason you're not going to see LeBron leave. There's no way LeBron would come back for 1 year, screw up entirely just to do this to Dan Gilbert. There's no way he hates Dan Gilbert that much. Comes over, plays for Cleveland, gets him to trade away all their young assets, bring in a couple of free agents and just walk. It's not going to happen.
Wow, that is the most Cleveland-y thing that has crossed my mind in a long time.
Picture it now. It's never going to happen. But him just going, Dan Gilbert, this one's for you.
Oh, Lord. That would be revenge most foul. That would be like cask of Amontillado foul. That's wow. Yeah, that would be very hard to believe that would be LeBron's agenda this whole time. I don't suspect that. But where did that story come from that was air quote leaked about LeBron's people saying that he's not going to hesitate to go to another team if that's the best
That was
business
from
decision.
WFNY. I saw was the only one who had it, and CBS Sports. Like I said, in Cleveland.com. But like I said, at the same time, not going to leave here.
But tell me about that story. Was it accurately sourced? Was it just a lot of speculation?
I don't know if it was accurately sourced. I just don't see Rich Paul doing that. I just don't see him doing that with LeBron. I cannot see that happening. LeBron would literally ruin his legacy if he goes and does something like that.
Yeah, but we said that before, and he survived it.
No, this is a different story now. It's totally different. If he were to go and do that, it would be completely tarnished. The fact that he disrupted a young and upcoming basketball team, took away everything from them, to do that, I'm telling you, would not sit well with anyone. Anyone.
Yeah, I would agree, but where did that story come from? If it wasn't Rich Paul...
I don't know. My guess is Rich wouldn't leak something like that. Like I said, at the same time, I would not be worried about the Cavaliers losing LeBron. I'm just not.
No, I'm not necessarily worried about it either. But where did that story? I know you don't know. I don't know. No, I get that. I'm not hassling you about that. But what I'm wondering, like that deep dark crevice of my soul that thinks we get a burnt out, beaten up LeBron James, kind of like Jenny coming back in Forrest Gump. I've said it before, and I'm actually rewatching the movie. It's a great flick. But at the very end when she comes in and it's just, oh man, you've seen better. Oh, now you're dead. I'm not expecting LeBron to pass away very soon. My point is that same part of me that goes, oh no, it couldn't be that. That same part of me is wondering, well, where did that story come from about LeBron putting pressure on the organization? Is that to get rid of David Blatt? Is that to pull the trigger on a trade? Because we know LeBron did that in the past when he played for the Cavs. Really hampering us with a bunch of bad contracts that set us up for a few bad years where we couldn't have any flexibility to really build the team we needed. I'm just wondering, where the hell is that story coming from, and what truth is behind it? Because, whether he's never going to do that or not, I don't really think he will either. But that story's still coming from somewhere, and if that's not some bitter, bored fan making some crap up, that does concern me. So, I mean, time's going to tell. Do you fully expect LeBron to come back in about 2 weeks?
I do.
And that he could probably play right now. If this were the playoffs, he'd be playing, hands down. Just keep pushing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so just anybody worried about structurally or something that's going to be lingering for a long time, this is to prevent it from lingering a long time, right? This is just the best time to close up shop. All right. Well, I want to just write our epitaph of the Cleveland Browns on the other side in a second. But anything else catching your eye in the rest of the NBA? Any teams surprising you? Any teams disappointing you? What else are you seeing in the league right now?
Not many other surprises.
Yeah, more. How about this? We're a few weeks in. What about college basketball?
Honestly, I have not committed a lot of time to college basketball so far, other than watching Arizona play.
Hey, you know what? You consume just about everything else, and I know that used to be such a big part of your day-to-day activities.
It was, but with my travel schedule now, as you know, I'm all over the place all the time. And with college football and with the NFL still being so involved in my everyday life, it's just been tough to watch college basketball so far. I will get into it probably starting next week.
Yeah, the NFL playoffs and all the fantasy leaguers like me who got eliminated. As the NFL starts winding down to its big game, and college football, 2 Mondays away from the Buckeyes hopefully celebrating a championship win over the Duckeyes. Obviously a lot more focus will shift to that, but I'm just going to be glued to the Cleveland Cavaliers soap opera drama, and we'll watch that from there. From there forward, see when LeBron comes back, how strong he's looking, how good the rest of the team's looking. So I'll tell you what, let's do this. We'll just flip the script and wrap this up here with the Cleveland Browns. Let's say goodbye to this season. What did we learn? What questions are unanswered? What are the keys to getting better next season?
Get rid of Johnny Manziel and get rid of Josh Gordon.
Ooh, that's a tease. That's called a teaser. And then on the other side of the commercial break, we're going to talk about that. Dun, dun, dun.
The Unhappy Hour on the new AmericanMedia.com.